Welcome back to America on the Road with Chris Teague. Jack Nerad back with you. We're so glad you're with us. We do appreciate the fact that you've joined us on America on the Road, and it is road test time. And Chris, you are road testing a vehicle that you have road tested for the last several months, and now you have a different edition to talk about. So tell us about it.
I do. It's a little bit of a different color and interior configuration, but overall it's very similar to ours. This is the 2025 Honda Prologue. Jack, as we talked about before, this vehicle, it was produced in conjunction with General Motors. So even though we're calling this a Honda, it was built by a General Motors factory in Mexico, and it shares a bunch of its underlying engineering with the Chevrolet Equinox EV, Ultium technology, and that sort of stuff. So a little bit of a hybrid attitude going on here, and I'll get a little bit more into that too. But Jack, and I asked you this with the ZDX. Have you driven the Prologue, and what do you think about it if you have?
I have driven it. I think I drove it at North American Car of the Year testing in Ann Arbor about a month or so ago. I was impressed with it. I mean, it's one of those vehicles that it doesn't jump out at you from an excitement point of view. I mean, its styling isn't so exciting inside and out. It's one of those. It strikes me as perfectly functional, but not necessarily getting my heart started.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. When people ask me what I think of it, I say it's fine. It's perfectly fine.
Right.
It does what we ask of it. But in any case, this vehicle starts in the mid $40,000 range. The top elite trim, which is what I own and what I tested, is up in the $60,000 range. With the base model, you get an 85 kilowatt hour battery, single motor, 212 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque. This model has all-wheel drive, so you get the same 85 kilowatt hour battery, but you get two electric motors, 288 horsepower, 333 pound-feet of torque, and as I mentioned, all-wheel drive. So if you're listening to this, 288 horsepower doesn't sound like a lot, and it doesn't feel like a lot when you're driving this vehicle either. You do benefit. 333 pound-feet of torque is nice, and you get all that off the line with the electric powertrain. So it does feel quicker than it probably is in operation, but I would still say your 0 to 60 times are not going to be super impressive by any stretch of the imagination. You get 296 miles of range with the two-wheel drive models. The all-wheel drive drops to 281, and then the Elite, which is what I mentioned I tested, goes down further to 273 miles of range. And having owned this vehicle for 6 months now or so, I can tell you that those numbers are pretty accurate. We get around 270, 265, something like that on a single charge. Honda says you can DC fast charge from 20 to 80% in 35 minutes. So if you did need to stop at a public charger, you have plenty of, you can get a good charge in just a little bit of time. But the level 2 charging at home is just fine. We plug it in at night, wake up in the morning, and we're at 85% and ready to go. The base models get cloth upholstery inside, Jack. I should point out that this is a 5-seat SUV, so it's a 2-row, not a 3-row model. You get leather upholstery in the higher trims, which is what my Elite model had. Heated and ventilated front seats. You get a heated steering wheel. And Jack, this vehicle is plenty spacious inside. You don't have the transmission tunnel running through the middle of the floor. The front seats are spacious. They're wide. They're nicely supportive. They're not as padded as I would expect from something made by General Motors. You kind of get the old person feel in some of the seats, and I was hoping for that here, but no dice, but there is plenty of room. And then children in the back seat have no trouble with the bench. We fit 2 full-size car seats back there and booster seat with no problem. So again, I think, you have plenty of space inside. Jack, what do you think of the visual appeal of the Prologue interior?
I think it's just fine. I mean, the way you describe the vehicle, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing particularly memorable about it. I think you're crossing brands here is part of the issue. And there's only so much Honda can do, and there's only so much GM that they're going to leave in it, but they have to leave some in it. So I think it's what happens when you kind of mix two things like that together.
Yeah, and I will say, I think what Honda has done with the interior design is a little bit more interesting than what Chevy did with the Equinox's interior. So the Elite trim, the one that we own, has a light colored interior with navy blue and gray leather. My test model had a black leather interior with red stitching. So it's a little bit more visually appealing than the Chevy models, but overall very similar inside. You get an 11-inch digital gauge cluster, if I can say that, and an 11.3-inch touchscreen with this vehicle. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are standard. With the Honda model, you don't get those features with GM vehicles, which is a huge benefit for me if you're going to buy one of these. If you like Apple CarPlay like I do, then Honda or Acura are the only 2 choices you have there. You also get Bluetooth, 6 speakers as standard, HD radio, Sirius XM radio, My Elite test model came with a 12-speaker Bose premium audio system and then a full suite of advanced safety equipment. So you get lane change alerts, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alerts, and the whole deal. Jack, I would have to say that if I were going to buy one of these sort of twins or one of these counterparts of this Ultium technology, the Prologue would probably be my choice. And it's not just because I own one. I think the price point is correct. I like the styling, the best out of the group. And the addition of Apple CarPlay is something that you don't get, like I said, with the General Motors variant. So I think Honda did a good job with the adaptation.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I think Honda's eager to get them out the door too. So there's nothing wrong with that, and that gives you maybe some leverage when you're making your deal with the dealer. And all